Okay, so we got good news, bad news, depending on your perspective. Apparently, Ukraine, or Zelensky specifically, is getting pushed into peace talks with Russia. We're going to see what kind of deal they can work out there. Now, I imagine it's going to be something like keep the lines where they're at, and it's going to be a loss technically for Zelensky, but overall he's going to win because his troops are going to stop dying. He needs to back off, let it be what it can be for now, and build up his forces and maybe get rid of some of that corruption that they've got going on over there, and then at a later date go ahead and push back, take that land back. Hey, that's his land, that's Ukrainian land. And Russia was completely wrong. I'm not saying Putin is a good guy. Putin's an evil guy and should be taken out, in my opinion. But, aside from some assassination attempt, we're not going to be able to do that. So they're going to have to deal with what they're going to have to deal with for now. So that's that. And apparently, on other news, Israel, or Benjamin Netanyahu, has apparently deported thousands of Palestinian workers and deported them back into Gaza, which I don't understand that move right there. I mean, I know the immediate thought is like, okay, get rid of all these Palestinians, but if these Palestinians were workers, which they were, that's what he deported, workers, people that were living and working in Israel, deported them back to Gaza. If they were in Israel working and living there, that means that they are very friendly to Jewish people and Israelis in particular. So why the hell would you want to deport them? I can see maybe, putting some more eyeballs on them, watching them a little bit closer, maybe even do like the United States did in World War II with the Japanese troops, put them in a detention center and detain them at the most. I don't condone that, of course, but it's a lot better than sending them back into the firing line when they appear to not be violent people because they were living and working in Israel. So why the hell he would want to deport those people, I have no freaking clue. But what's up, everybody? How y'all doing? How's your day going? I hope it's going pretty good. Mine's going great. I'm loving the weather around here. It's not too cold. It's not hot at all. It's good and cool. It's dry. We're living it up over here. Broke as but still doing our thing, you know what I mean? Hey, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button for me if you don't mind. And for everybody who does watch, don't forget, man, go ahead, look down below the video right now and smash that like button and let me know that you like this kind of content, you know what I'm saying? And by the way, leave a comment also. Let me know how you feel. I love hearing from you guys. I love reading y'all's comments. Let me know how y'all feel about everything that's going on in Ukraine and everything that's going on in Israel, because there's some atrocities going on over there. I can't condone some of the stuff going on in Israel right now. I understand their need to defend themselves, but we're sitting upwards of like 10,000 Palestinian deaths. That's kind of extreme in my opinion. We need to chill out. If you listen to Ben Shapiro, I imagine he'd be quite okay with just dropping a nuke on the whole section. I can't condone that. I can't condone just outright killing innocent people. I don't care if a terrorist is using them for a human shield. You can't kill innocent people. It's like the old proverb goes, it's better to let 100 criminals get away than one innocent person suffer. I think that's how it goes. But, I totally agree with that. Innocent people shouldn't suffer, and innocent people get caught up in BS situations all the damn time. And we need to do the best we can to try to prevent stuff like that from happening, because imagine if it was you that got caught in that situation. As a matter of fact, let me know down in the comments, what would you do if you got caught in a bad situation and you was innocent? How would you feel? And then let me know your worldview on what Israel's doing right now with some of the stuff that they're doing. But really, really good news. Of course, it's not going to go down exactly like this, but we got some more House news, so let's go ahead and get right into that. House GOP approves cutting EPA budget by nearly 40%. Now, of course we know that their budget isn't going to be cut by 40%. Because they're going to have to work with the Senate and they're going to have to, mediate, and it's going to fall somewhere in between there. But the good news is they're starting with that bar high. So that means when it comes time to negotiate, if we have a 10% cut in their budget, that seems reasonable. And to me, I would much prefer to go with the 40% because, in my honest opinion, the EPA does nothing for this country. The EPA hurts a lot of things. They have some of the largest overreaching regulations that this country has, and they're just terrible. They're just horrible, in my opinion. The EPA, it's good and bad, you know what I mean? Because they do contribute to helping our country be more green, I should say. We don't want to be bad stewards of the planet, of course. We don't want to pollute like they did back in the Industrial Revolution. Just putting lead in the water and just polluting like crazy. I mean, the EPA has brought about change that I would consider necessary for the advancement of human civilization. But they've also had regulations on power plants and oil refineries and stuff like that that have totally hurt the advancement of human civilization, essentially. But let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to stop ranting. Let's go ahead and see what the hell Mike Johnson is doing. House Republicans approved legislation Friday that would slash nearly 40% of the budget for the EPA, or the Environmental Protection Agency. The funding bill passed by a 213 to 203 vote cuts 39% of the EPA's budget and would be the smallest budget the agency has had in 3 decades. And I bet you money they're going to say it's bipartisan support. Republican reps Brian Fitzpatrick, Mike Lawler, and Mark Molinaro voted against the bill, while Democratic rep Vicente Gonzalez was recorded as voting for it. And that's why I say they're going to say, oh, there's bipartisan support for this bill. One Democrat voted for it. So, yeah, now we have a bipartisan support for slashing the EPA's budget nearly 40%. Watch. I bet you money that you're going to hear that somewhere. Republicans have had long-standing complaints about the agency, which takes on pollution, contamination, climate change, arguing that it overreaches. And it does overreach. It overreaches greatly, and we'll get into that. Rep. Mike Simpson, who chairs the subcommittee that wrote the bill, characterized the funding reductions it would deliver as necessary to curtail inflation and the national debt. And I agree, because the EPA has a lot of overreaching policies and regulations. Like there's this one I know about specifically for an LNG plant, or a liquid natural gas plant that was recently built a couple of miles south of the town that I live in. They had to build these multi-million-dollar, they cost like hundreds of $1,000,000 unit to refine natural gas to usable natural gas. You know what I mean? It's a big section refinery where they do all this process technology stuff that goes on. They had to build several of these things, and they had to spread them out a certain amount, because if certain species of birds happen to go into one of these units, land on it, and build a nest, okay, they have to shut that unit down. They have to shut it down totally, stop working. Nobody can touch this bird's nest, right? And they have to let nature take its course. They can't just go in there, send a specialist team in there to remove the nest. They have to let nature take its course, which is completely ridiculous. Nobody is allowed to touch this bird. That's the kind of overreach that the EPA does. They have other overreach, like banning certain fertilizers for gas, certain insecticides, which can be a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing when some of this stuff doesn't hurt anything or anybody. They also regulate, this was something that came up in a committee hearing, where they treat a drainage ditch essentially the same as a lake or a river, having some of the same regulations around pollution in this drainage ditch as they would in a lake or a river. Fining a farmer thousands of dollars if their cow happens to poop in a drainage ditch. That is ridiculous, in my opinion, if you ask me. It's a drainage ditch. It's not connected to any main waterways, so there's no risk of polluting drinkable water storage, areas or whatever. It's just the EPA just does some really ridiculous stuff, and I'm not going to get into all that on this video because we would be here all freaking day. But let's keep going, you guys. Cutting funding is never easy or pretty, but with the national debt in excess of $33 trillion and inflation at an unacceptable level, we had to make tough choices to rein in federal spending, Simpson said on the floor Thursday. The massive funding cut proposed by the GOP has virtually no chance of becoming law in this year's budget, but marks a starting point in negotiations for Republicans as they look to negotiate with Democrats in the Senate on the funding the government. The bill is one of 12 annual government funding bills Republicans hope to have passed by November 17th. Good luck. Deadline to prevent a shutdown. However, Republicans face a challenge in staying unified on spending as they look to approve the remaining 5 bills in the tight window. Yeah, that's not a whole lot of time to pass these funding bills, but they can do it. In addition, the top-line EPA cuts, the GOP bill would also rescind provisions from the climate tax and health care bill that Democrats passed last year. It targets funding aimed at helping undeserved communities combat climate change and pollution. I'm sorry, no. It additionally seeks to defund the EPA's efforts to curtail toxic pollution and planet-warming emissions, preventing the agency from using funding to enforce its rules on power plants. Yeah, you know what? Some of these rules around these power plants are quite ridiculous. Like I said, some of that stuff with the birds' nests. There's other stories of they can't build fencing around these power plants, like with the coal-powered power plant that we have up just north of me. They have a big problem with wild hogs getting in there and damaging stuff. Well, the EPA will not allow them to build fencing around this power plant to keep these wild animals out because it disrupts nature, apparently. So that's another cost. This power plant has to go in and hire companies to remove these wild hogs safely, mind you. They can't just build a fence to keep them out. They have to hire these companies, and it's an ongoing process. They pretty much have them on a contract, and it causes our electricity bill to be much higher than it would. I say much higher, but it causes it to be higher than it would if they didn't have this problem. And it's not just wild hogs. Like I said, these same rules apply to this power plant for the birds. They employ methods to keep these birds out, but it's not a guarantee. And they have to shut down sections of this power plant if some of these birds go in there and build a nest. It's completely ridiculous. The EPA does a lot of good, but the EPA also does a lot of bad. And cutting their funding like this, to me, is a good idea. I am a firm believer in humanity can innovate our way out of a climate crisis. We do not have to put ourselves back in the Stone Age to restore the climate back to where it's supposed to be. I think we can innovate our way there. But that's just my opinion. I have a lot of faith in human innovation. Rep. Shelley Pingree, the top Democrat on the Interior Environment Funding Subcommittee, said the bill debilitates America's ability to address the climate crisis and hobbles the agencies within its jurisdiction. I would totally disagree with that. It doesn't debilitate that at all. I urge my colleagues to protect the world you are leaving to your children and grandchildren and oppose the bill, she said. These are people that just want endless funding and think we can just continue to print money with no downsides. We're seeing the downsides of all the printing of money we did for COVID. Stimulus package from Trump and the stimulus package from Biden. Those were unnecessary, in my opinion. The bill would also deliver cuts, albeit less dramatic ones, to the Interior Department, reducing its funding by about 4.5%. It delivers a steeper cut of 13% to the National Park Service. No loss there. The legislation would also require the Biden administration to pursue drilling off the coast of Alaska, where the administration does not currently plan to offer new oil lease sales. It would also require the administration to auction off the right to drill for oil there at least twice a year, and would also require twice a year oil lease sales in regions of the Gulf of Mexico. That is great news. Back to energy independence that we had under Trump. It's great. Hopefully those stay in. The bill looks drastically different from its counterpart in the Senate, which calls for $7 billion more in total funding than the legislation passed in the House and was approved with overwhelming bipartisan support in the committee earlier this year. And what in the hell is wrong with these people? They're going to give $7 billion more to their budget than what they asked for. That is totally ridiculous, and in my opinion is very reckless. Very, very reckless. How can somebody be, or a set of people, adults, be that irresponsible fiscally? That doesn't make any sense to me. The gap comes as no surprise as House Republicans announced earlier this year they would be marking up their fiscal 2024 government funding plans below the budget caps deal struck between President Biden and former Speaker Kevin McCarthy over the summer. Hardline conservatives had sought to dial up pressure on GOP leadership to make further spending cuts. Great news. The bill is expected to contain billions of dollars in additional cuts as part of an intra-party agreement later in the summer to lock down support from hardline conservatives. Simpson is among the appropriators who voiced frustration with the pressure campaigned by hardliners at the time. But Simpson and other top appropriators told The Hill in recent days they have been backing away from earlier plans to further big dollar cuts to the funding legislation, as conservatives have signaled they'll give Speaker Mike Johnson some breathing room amid spending talks. That's right. These people are completely insane. Some of these people that just want to keep on funding the government as if we can just print money. Okay, we can just print money. But just printing money has put us 33.5, I think, or 0.6 trillion dollars in debt. Okay, it's caused inflation to skyrocket. It's causing our economy to take a major downturn. Okay, banks are going under. It's not looking good. You know, gas is high. And I just don't understand these people that think that we can just keep on raising these budgets into deficit territory and everything is just going to be okay just because it has been okay. Well, it hasn't been okay. Okay, our economy is hurting. They're trying to make us believe that our economy is just fine, is doing great, but it's not, okay? We've seen prices at the grocery store. I've railed on prices at the grocery store. I've railed on gas prices. I've talked about these banks failing and going under. There's been like hundreds of banks go under just this year. Lots of small business have gone under. It's just not looking good right now. And these people are continually just saying screw it and just keep raising our deficits like that. Without any regard for people like me and like you. I just think it's ridiculous that they keep doing this, and I don't understand their thought process, right? I've watched, hearing after hearing after hearing, and I hear these people talking about all this spending that we're doing, but when it comes time to vote, like the story said, it had overwhelming bipartisan support in the Senate. And if they use that term overwhelming, that means a lot of Republicans voted for this. And it's just ridiculous. How much money are these people taking, under the table? That's what I want to know, for them to just throw aside fiscal responsibility like that. I would love to know that. At what cost are they doing this, though? It's costing the American taxpayer a lot of money. And I just think it's terrible policy. I genuinely think it's bad for the country, and I don't see how they can justify their position on this. But like I said, you guys, let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments. Let me know if you think we can just continue to keep on spending money and printing money like there's no tomorrow, or what. Let me know what y'all think about these cuts to the EPA. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Let me know what you guys think. But that's all I got for this one, y'all. Like I said, don't forget to hit that like button, please, and leave a comment. I love hearing from you guys. I love reading out those comments, and I usually respond to all of them. But yeah, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on your notifications so every time I put out a video, which is every single day, you'll know about it. It'll come up in your feed. But like I said, you guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate all y'all, and be positive. Peace.